Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Always happy to share the stage with Mauricio, our partner manager from Microsoft. The idea today is to walk you through some of the things that we have been seeing on our end in regards to the paid world, the paid advertising world, and how COVID has impacted campaigns, how COVID has impacted some of our partners, what we're seeing for some industries, some verticals, but most importantly, all the opportunities that we're identifying in the short and the midterm, and also all the resources that we have available for you, whether it is for your own agency, if you're an agency owner, or if you have your own business and you are running paid advertising campaigns, some of the resources that you have available to improve performance, and some relevant information that will help you make better decisions as well during this particular time we're in. To begin with, I'd like to introduce myself and introduce Mauricio as well. My name is Francisco Lacayo. I am the VP of Sales and Partnerships here at White Shark Media. We are a digital marketing agency, and we focus on helping other agencies fulfill their PPC product, as well as grow their portfolio and secure some scalable solutions for them to manage their product. And I am joined today, like I mentioned, by Mauricio Orantes from the Microsoft team. Mauricio, maybe you want to introduce yourself and give us some background.
Yeah, thank you. So I am a partner manager for the Americas. I'm based out in New York City, though you wouldn't tell because it looks like we're in the same room. So I definitely have to thank the White Shark Media graphics team for bringing me virtually into the office. So I definitely appreciate that, and kudos to the marketing team. Yeah, you know, I'm really happy to share the stage with you. I think there's a lot of good learnings from the last 3 months. It's been unprecedented in terms of where we are sort of globally all experiencing the same thing, and how that's influenced and impacted both positively and negatively the search part of the world. So I will say, you know, my connection is going in and out. And so I want to apologize if my video sort of throttles. But, you know, for one thing, I just want to appreciate the time that I'm here. And, you know, for what it's worth, you know, that picture is 3 haircuts ago. So please, thank you. You know, I look a little different, but delivering this
time. Perfect. Thank you for that introduction, Mauricio. So to walk you through the agenda, the idea is that we cover some of the trends that we're seeing in the paid advertising world, update on some of the business lines that we're working with, as well as some insights we're getting from our COVID hub. Cover some verticals that we're seeing growth, and some of the ones where we're seeing some declining performance as well, and obviously how some of those businesses are adjusting. Then more specifically on the PPC side, how we can work together to help you and provide resources so you're able to adjust your message and shift your online strategy as well. And we're also going to cover some of our own tools as well that we have available for partners and clients to be able to navigate these COVID waters. And then on the Microsoft side, we're going to be talking about market share and some of the opportunities there, as well as some features related to audience, different verticals, market tools available, etc. We will have a Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to submit your questions through the question. You have a question tab here in the webinar, so please write them down, submit them there, and we're going to try to cover them at the end of the webinar. The idea here today in a nutshell is to go over what we saw at the beginning of COVID, what we're seeing right now, what we expect in the short term, how you can adapt your existing portfolio, how you can adapt yourself as an agency, and what resources you have available in order to do that. So I'd like to start. This is just a brief background on some of the things that we were seeing at the beginning of this COVID pandemic that started a couple of months ago in the US market. The first thing that we tried to identify when this came about was which industries were taking the biggest hit and which industries were actually showcasing improvement in performance. Some industries that we didn't expect to increase in performance that quick actually picked up fairly well. Some of them, furniture is one of the biggest ones where we saw a significant increase that we're still seeing to this day. It has a lot to do with the fact that with people working from home and moving to the home office model, a lot of people are purchasing furniture to adapt their home environment to be able to work there. So we're seeing a significant trend there. Online media and entertainment is a big one. It goes from the biggest players in the market for streaming like Netflix and Hulu and HBO to a lot of content creators that are shifting around different channels to create new content for people. More people are at home. There's more people as well consuming entertainment content and online media from their cell phones as well. So a lot of content creators have stepped up their game and their content generation, and they're tying this with their paid strategies as well. So they're investing more money in paid advertising to be able to showcase this content to this bigger audience that they have now. Home services as well spiked up, especially the services that are considered essential businesses across different states. HVAC and cleaning in most states are considered an essential business, so these ones have spiked up significantly. HVAC in particular, it makes a lot of sense when you have people trying to fix their AC, make sure that the filters are in place, make sure that the air is clean in the house so they can protect their health. So HVAC did take a big jump during the beginning of the pandemic, and cleaning services as well. People trying to make sure that their home is clean. They're spending more time at home now, so they probably require more help there as well. So those are two of the big ones within home services where we saw a spike. And within the legal services world, we're seeing a sustained performance and spike in traffic as well. But what we're seeing is a shift in the services that are being demanded and required by people. Bankruptcy being a big one. So all the legal process for bankruptcy, there's a lot more requests now, obviously due to the economic situation and the effect the pandemic has had in the US market. This is a big topic for lawyers nowadays. The same goes for divorces, medical malpractice, unlawful termination, all the things that you expect that are coming off the pandemic and how the pandemic is affecting the behavior of people. They're being reflected in the legal services where we're seeing some spikes as well. So those are some of the industries where we're seeing an increase in performance. There's other industries, of course, where we're seeing drops in performance. We saw this more towards the beginning of the pandemic. Live events and anything in regards to live entertainment has obviously dipped because most events have been canceled and postponed. So a lot of the spend in those industries has decreased. The construction industry, which is closely tied to the economic situation, has slowed down significantly. So traffic and paid performance has dropped as well. Construction is halted and not too many people are working on developing construction projects. So that's also shown a significant decrease. Everything in regards to food and entertainment, so restaurants, clubs, and bars, due to the fact that most of them are closed or are only allowed to provide takeout and delivery service, have decreased in traffic, and a lot of them have had to adapt. This is one particular industry that, despite the fact that at the beginning of the crisis we saw a drop in performance and in traffic, has adapted fairly quick, and they've actually showcased a lot of different strategies that have had great results. We're going to cover that later during the presentation, but due to the way that they've adapted to the current situation, they've been able to present a different paid strategy where they're taking advantage of delivery, promotions, and also trying to put out there the takeout options that they have. So, and then one of the biggest industries where we've seen possibly the biggest hit is the travel and the hospitality industry. Obviously, with the big drop in travel and the restrictions that there are currently in place still across the world, the travel industry took a big hit. The same with hotels and everything in regards to hospitality. A lot of vacations were canceled or postponed. So this industry is also one where we saw a big drop in performance as well. So Mauricio, maybe you want to cover this part?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for setting the stage there. I mean, essentially, like what we found from our network is that, again, you know, we're sort of in a very different place than what we were 3 months ago, because I think there was a big scramble of trying to understand like what the true impact was, and no one can really forecast this type of sort of movement in the market. And you know, the first month is very different than the second, and it's very different now in the third. You know, similar to what, you know, the initial impacts. There's a lot of big areas that were just hit the hardest, right? You think about travel, right? People were canceling because they couldn't leave anymore, right? So we're seeing a massive spike there, but no one's really booking. Now, 3 months later, people are booking, you know, for later on in the year, right? People are optimistic, right? The data in a lot of places is showing us that, you know, the curve is flattened. And so people are using those credits, from those refunds. If people are using, sort of like this time now to be reflective and figure out like what are their future plans down the road. So there is an upside to this, right? Largely what we're seeing is, there is, from like the state of the world right now, like in the United States, it is we're seeing the basic highest unemployment rate that we've seen ever since even the Great Depression. And a lot of that sort of happened overnight. And so what we're seeing now, again, moving forward in the 3 months, places are starting to phase opening up their states, and the big cities are starting to follow suit. So like I said, I'm in New York. We're starting phase 1 or phase 2 next week. And so things are optimistically looking up. In terms of the industry, generally, automotive is hit really hard, right? Tier 1, the brand needs to be strong, right? So that isn't really going anywhere. But it's really hard to promote things around large events because large events have been canceled. So really where we've seen some sort of toughness has been around the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You can't go into your local dealership right now because they just can't have that many people. And so those are the kind of areas right now where we played really close attention to the industry. And again, as we're monitoring how each state is activating and phasing out, their sort of opening dates, things are starting to open up. So we have the tools right now and the data in a resource hub that have, basically been kept up week over week. And so we definitely want to make sure people know to go there. And we'll have the links for you both at the end of the presentation, and you'll see them sort of flash through. A couple bright spots where we're seeing travel, again, optimistic. People are planning for later on down the road. Health and wellness, telemedicine is on the rise. Desktop, as people were, sort of working and having to shift their workplace to home, desktop usage has gone up. And so in that, it's been one of those things where, where you need to have more of a rich experience, the desktop provides that for you. And in a lot of engagements, Microsoft has given up Teams for free. We've seen a spike in that. So people are leveraging those tools a lot more. They're having general, social hours that way, and they're having professional hours that way, and they're starting to see their doctor that way. And in terms of the retailer world, this has been a big flux for us because some of the big players left, and the big players are, again, Amazon, eBay. They've, again, been a household name similar to like a Coca-Cola, and people are going directly to these advertisers. So they've decided to leave, big part of the auction for us. So what that means is, the bright spot is that there's a lot of small retailers that have been able to adapt their business model from brick and mortar to online sales, leveraging Shopify, leveraging, all these different sort of platforms that allow you to overnight create a presence online. And they've actually been able to capitalize on that. The CPC floor has actually gone down. And, clicks have actually, remained the same, and if not gone up in some places. So it's a great time for folks to take advantage for those who've shifted from brick and mortar to online sales. So with that, I wanted to give everyone not so much an eye exam over the Zoom call, but I wanted to show you guys what we're seeing in terms of the top 10 verticals and what that landscape looks like. In short, I want folks to pay attention to the black line, and the black line is where we are. The blue and the red actually show where we were this time last year and the year prior to that. And again, this has been a huge learning moment for all of us because we're starting to see the rise in desktop usage, and we're just seeing a lot more activity on our network. We're still researching back and forth. They're still leveraging the default browsers. They're still leveraging the default search engines, but they're also looking for deals on both engines. And so what we're seeing is, again, people are having to mitigate what they would normally do in person online. So again, when it comes to shopping for furniture, people are stuck at home and they're thinking DIY projects. They're thinking, how do I swap out some furniture that I just hate? And now that I have the time to wait for the delivery, I'm here. So a big ticket purchase item, people are doing their research likely on a desktop because it requires more of a robust experience. They can't go into the showroom. So there's a lot more sort of research and engagement happening on our network as well. And so again, a lot of the arts and entertainment is actually on the rise, similar to what Frank was saying. people are streaming a lot more, right? But, again, it's also in a time of crisis, you see that the arts sort of tend to spike up anyway, because people can get more creative. They have a platform. And so we're seeing a lot more engagement in some of these spaces as well, where, people are looking these things up, they're researching a lot more, they're engaging in terms of streaming, and they're just consuming a lot more. So, those are some really high level areas. But, I just definitely wanted to make sure that you guys know that we are keeping a track on this, and it's week over week. And we have a resource center that we will be able to point you guys to if there's something more specific and granular that you need.
And just picking up where you left, Mauricio, we covered right now some of the things that we were seeing when the COVID pandemic started, and some of the things that we're starting to see. But we're also hopeful, and we're starting to see some behaviors that are opening our eyes to what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I can tell you from the agency perspective that one of the first things that we started to notice at the beginning of this month was paid campaigns are being re-enabled. So a lot of businesses that had paused their advertising efforts because they were not open or because their services were limited are now starting to re-enable their paid campaigns because they're starting to get an influx in traffic. In a lot of verticals and in a lot of cases, we're actually seeing in the short term that we've, the first week of June, the first 10 days of June, we're actually seeing better performance than what they were actually showcasing before the pandemic. So a lot of industries are picking up with momentum. And it is possible that this momentum will continue through the rest of the month, through the rest of the quarter, and in a lot of industries for Q3 as well. A lot of the industries that started to pick up during COVID, so furniture, home services, and streaming services and things like that, they haven't dropped in performance, and it seems that performance is not going to drop in the short term either. So we do expect that to probably translate to high levels of performance for the rest of the year. So if you started with a strategy during COVID and it started to work, the idea right now is that you could have some continuation to not kill the momentum and just gradually adjust based on the changes that you're seeing in the market and the changes that you're seeing in performance. But we are seeing strong forecasts on most of the industries that were performing at the beginning of COVID. And we're also seeing a lot of the industries that were hit starting to pick up with the campaigns being re-enabled. When I talked about the food industry and the bar industry, one thing that we're starting to see is that now that people are adjusting their behavior to takeout and delivery, and now they're more prone to actually go and look for food at restaurants and bars, there's more traffic in regards to delivery options, how you can cook at home as well. So restaurants providing basically food kits that you can take home and you can prepare yourself. And a lot of innovation has come in that industry due to this particular situation that we expect to continue moving forward. So a lot of the delivery services are likely going to continue. The furniture industry is a good example where we expect the work from home trend to continue despite the length of the pandemic. A lot of agencies that we're talking to and a lot of partners are sharing that they're actually considering moving for a full work from home model moving forward, regardless of the face of the state in the current situation, because they found systems and they were forced to find systems to make the company work and to make the service model work, having their employees at home. So now that they've been able to do that, they're also leveraging all the benefits of having people at home. They have lower costs. Obviously, they don't have to pay for an office space, but also people being at home, they have more flexibility to do a lot of things. Even productivity in a lot of industries is starting to pick up as well. So we're seeing a lot of good signs right now, and we also forecast a lot of good things moving forward. One big thing that's happening across most of the campaigns we manage and most brands are actually working on is their messaging and how they're adjusting their message based on the changes in consumer behavior. Obviously, this is a particular situation that we haven't experienced before in the US or worldwide. So a lot of the behaviors that are changing are things that brands are not used to dealing with. So a lot of the messages are being tailored to the different approaches that people are taking towards particular products. So now there's more content being shared, brands being more empathic, more help being offered. There's more connection with customers and more communication with customers now from brands because they understand that this change in behavior is leading to those particular things. And this is also opening doors as well, obviously, to a lot of new opportunities. within the paid world and also within your agency and how you manage your portfolio to make sure that you can continue this positive trend that we're seeing. Some of these opportunities to share here, Mauricio is going to cover some of these, particularly in regards to shopping and shopping campaigns and the rise that we're seeing in this channel.
Yeah, I mean, and just to sort of put a pin on what you mentioned, productivity is up, which is great, right? And we're sort of living in a new hybrid model, right? And I think this is sort of fundamentally changed a couple of things of how people are doing business. From an agency standpoint, you're getting a lot more advertisers actually hit up and engage with their agencies because they want to be more proactive, right? And they want to make sure that they know where their dollars are going towards. And this is a great time for agencies to lean in again, empathetically, to understand like, okay, like how do we really partner with your business? And then also how do we like test and be a little bit more agile, right? Like there's a ton of products that we are releasing that some folks maybe just put on the back burner because things were working fine the way they are. But now you're having to be a little bit more cost conscious. Maybe you are moving to a different model where you don't have the overhead anymore. You don't have an office building because it just doesn't make sense anymore. Or you really want to make sure you can capture as much as you can because there is so much demand for you. It's maybe getting too competitive on Google and you want to diversify some of the channels that are unexplored. And so again, right, this is a massive opportunity for us to look at the playing field and find out again, like what is the right media mix across publishers to deliver for your advertiser, right? So this is the best time for folks to lean in on the information that's available and on what is available from the relationships with their agency and the publishers. Very high level stuff here. The rise of desktop. Again, it's not going anywhere. It's back, baby. And in a lot of ways, this has been a good thing. And the desktop was never really going away. And I know there was some talk about it last year, like a couple of years ago. And the reality is we're living in a multi-device household world now. And so the desktop represents the office and it represents the sort of, research device. Of course, you're going to need to look at that, at something with a richer experience for, a couch, for a mortgage, at least even have multiple tabs available to you so that you can bounce back and forth. And so with where it pertains to retail, like right now, again, folks are actually starting to take advantage of our network because shopping's on the rise. Again, people are looking to, again, with optimistic expectations that they will be outside again, that they will be able to travel again, that they will be able to update their wardrobe, their furniture, their home devices, even their home office. Again, all that kind of stuff. So we are seeing a rise in that, and folks need to understand that, we have a dedicated team that is building out new products for this. We're starting to leverage our audiences on top of the product side. Our image search actually allows you to clip a part of an image that you've seen. Let's just say there's a lamp that's really awesome. You can actually search that on our network, and then you use the clipping tool, and it'll actually surface up results of retailers who have lamps that either are the exact one or something that looks very close to it. So definitely want to make sure you guys can start playing around with our product and taking advantage of it.
Perfect. And one thing we've been working on here as well, and then shopping is obviously a perfect opportunity to discuss this, is how do we adapt existing portfolios? So how do we adapt these paid campaigns to these changes, and how do we make sure that we take advantage of what's actually coming up? Because there's a lot of things happening at the same time. There's a lot of time being invested in the research that needs to be done to make sure that you adapt your portfolio. So we're doing a lot of work on that end, and a lot of the wins that we found is you can see them here on screen. Is taking a wholesome approach to your portfolio to make sure that you're leveraging all the resources available. One big thing that we're doing across the board for all of our portfolios, and if you're an agency, this applies for you too as well, is redefine your voice and your role in the market. And this goes for your particular client. So what is the message that your client is putting out there? What are the products communicating to the particular users, and how are you going about it? This means that this is the time to adjust your ad copy. If you paused your campaigns during COVID and you're re-enabling them now, it is the time to make sure that you readjust your ad copy, because the message you had pre-pandemic might not necessarily make sense for your audience right now. Why? because you might actually be tapping into a new audience. And this leads me to my second point. There's new audiences opening up for a lot of services and products and markets that weren't there before. A change in behavior and just the overall impact that the pandemic is having on people means that someone that might have not fit the profile for your average or ideal customer could be your ideal customer now. We're seeing a lot of changes in how people go about consuming products, and we're also seeing a lot of shifts in terms of priorities and what people are going after. This goes from thinking, if you have a business model where you are a B2C company, how you can adapt to B2B or vice versa. So, and furniture industries as well is a perfect example. If you're a commercial furniture store, and with so many people actually moving from buildings and office to home, you might want to think how now you can target the individual and how you can shift from commercial to residential, because the residential market is going to open up for you. Now a person might need office furniture at home. So shifting the message and shifting the strategy is important at this particular moment in time. Another thing that we're seeing as well with retail stores that have brick and mortar stores is how they're adapting basically their display strategy, because in a lot of cases, showrooms aren't a thing anymore, either because they're closed or because people are not showing up. One big trend is obviously augmented reality and virtual reality, where people actually get to see products virtually. Furniture industry, again, has been a pioneer in this, but we've also seen it. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I think it was with a shoe launch. I think it was New Balance or Under Armour, one of those brands. They wanted to do a public release of a new shoe, and they couldn't really host a press conference with the journalists there. So they did a VR launch. They sent everyone products so that they could experience the shoe in real time, and they had a VR experience and AR experience as well. And that gave them the push that they needed without having the physical presence. So that's happening a lot. And other shifts that we're seeing is, if you've had previous prospects or attempts to reach out to people that weren't successful in the past, this might be the time to reconnect as well, both with end advertisers and also the particular customers for the advertisers. One industry where we're seeing this, and I know that we have some guests here from the insurance industry, is the insurance world, especially health insurance. If you were connecting with prospects 6 months ago or a year ago that were not interested in having, healthcare insurance or financial insurance, this is the time to reach back to them, because it is likely that a lot of this and a lot of the situation that's happening around them is shifting their behavior towards actually having health insurance and having a financial insurance behind them. So if you reach out to them, the possibilities that they're changing their approach towards the product is significantly high. So we've done it ourselves with some clients that in the past felt that they weren't a good fit for the market. We're reaching out now, and now they're starting to see that they could offer a product during this different situation or new normal that we're starting to call it, and it's actually working out for them. So that's a big shift. Obviously, online presence is huge. If you still have clients that having fully shifted to digital and don't have a full online presence, this is the time to do it. The online industry is probably the most flexible industry and the one that's going to allow them to have the highest reach in this particular situation and context. So making sure that you have a full force digital strategy is extremely important for all your portfolio. Another trend that we're seeing is in regards to price and price sensitivity. Obviously, due to the situation we're seeing right now in the US market, the rate of unemployment and the drop in economy, customers are more sensitive to price. It's a norm and it's a given basically across all industries. So your pricing strategy also needs to change for you and for your end advertisers. This is the time to test different strategies, flexibility with prices and offers. The travel industry is a perfect example here, where they're offering discounts if you book flights for the future, or if you book packages with hotels for the future. You actually get a discount if you do it right now versus doing it in 2 or 3 weeks or even a month. So this is the time to reassess your pricing strategy and try to be as flexible as possible with discount, trying to secure long-term revenue and a higher lifetime value with customers, so you can adapt to the current situation that's going on in your market. And then one big one for your clients is obviously look at your competitors, what they're doing and what you can learn. There's a lot of creative strategies happening out there. There's a lot of outside the box thinking, and there's a lot of great ideas coming up, a lot of innovation happening. So if it's not coming up organically within your organization, look around and see what everyone else in the industry is doing. Everyone is trying to think outside the box and come up with a solution that'll help them adjust for future term and the new normal. So you're going to be able to find a lot of relevant information that you can take as inspiration and then adapt your own strategy to make sure that you're able to adjust to what's happening. In regards to to you as an agency owner or business owner as well, it is important that you prepare for the future. So the decisions that you make right now are not only meant to have an impact in the short term, but you need to prepare for what's going to come and for the possibility of having a second wave, relapses, a long-term economic drop, or just any new situation that might pop up within 6 to 12 months. If there's something that we've learned with this pandemic, is that there's a lot of things that we won't be able to control in the future and that we will not necessarily be fully prepared. So the more we plan for the future and the more we plan ahead, the more likely we are going to be able to surf that wave without wiping out in that ocean of the pandemic. So one big thing for all agency owners and business owners is having a flexible system and having the capacity to change at your agency or business level. If you are selling a product, if you're selling a service, this is the time to reassess how you can build a flexible model that can easily be adjusted to current market situations. Again, if you're a restaurant and you weren't offering takeout and delivery, build a system where takeout and delivery makes sense for you, because this is the flexibility that you will need if a second wave was to come, or if there was a relapse, or if your business was forced to close for a period of time in the future. That comes hand in hand with rethinking your product strategy. Maybe your product made sense before the pandemic. Maybe after the pandemic, it's not necessarily going to make sense or fit for the market. That doesn't mean that your product is not going to work in the long term. It just means that you have to rethink your product and make sure that once you're aligned with your audience, it is making sense for the audience. The showroom and AR example is one of the ones that we covered, where we figured if your showrooms don't make sense for a post-pandemic world, then invest in AR and invest in virtual and invest in digital, invest on your website and how your website can transmit your product message and your brand without the necessity of having to have a showroom, because in the future that might not make sense. That comes hand in hand with rethinking your audience and especially listening to your audience. Your audience might not change in the short term, but if you don't listen to their needs and what's happening in their particular environment, you might not be able to capture them in the future. They might evolve into different necessities. The more you listen to your audience, the more you'll be able to adapt your product for the future. Having a plan, obviously extremely important. At this point, you should have a plan A, plan B, and plan C for 3 or 4 different scenarios of what happens if the pandemic takes a shift, or if the market goes to a point where you really need to find something outside the box to move forward. So this is the moment to plan ahead, to plan for a virtual system, to plan how your agency is going to work if the lockdown continues, to plan how work from home might be a new system for you, to plan for delivery of your product, to plan for showcase of your product, and all the things that you need to think long term in case you're not able to get back to the day-to-day that you were used to before the pandemic. One of the most important things that you can be doing right now to prepare for the future is helping your clients, whether it is your end advertiser or your customers, if you're an end advertiser yourself, is help your clients, provide as much support as possible if you want to be able to sustain your revenue long term. We've invested a lot of resources, time, and effort here at Wireshark, and Microsoft has done the same, and you'll see it right now, in providing as much content and resources as possible for our clients and our partners, so they can have those extra hands helping them also ride the storm and ride and surf this wave in order to have a sustainable long-term strategy as a partnership as well. If you're able to help your clients ride this out, this is going to reflect as well on your own revenue, and this is going to help you sustain your own portfolio as well. So the more you can help, the extra work you can do, the extra hands you can provide, this is the time to do it, and it's going to pay off in the future as well. And one key thing as well is taking advantage of all the resources available. There is an incredible amount of resources out there available to navigate these pandemic waters and to prepare for what's coming next, to prepare for a reopening, to prepare for the new normal. There is a tremendous amount of literature, videos, decks, hubs, tools, etc. available. So you should be taking advantage of this. You should be spending some of your time during the day doing the research on all these tools and how they can actually help you out. One of the things that we worked on here as Wireshark was We have our blog, obviously, and if you've subscribed to it, you're getting all the notifications. But we started a library for COVID where we're producing material for all the verticals that we work with and all the research that we're seeing on our end that we feel will be relevant to you as customers and to you as partners. We're sharing that for free. So you have access to it and you have access to tips, behavior, what you could do in the short term, what you can do in the long term for your particular industry, how industries are adapting, what we're seeing as wins in the campaigns that we're managing, what's working out for us with our clients, and what's actually getting revenue for them in this particular pandemic. So that is available for you. And there is several other agencies out there and partners out there doing the same thing. So try to consume as much of this content as possible so you can be equipped with all the tools that you need to be able to ride this pandemic. We also have as well here at Whiteshark our Compass solution. Compass is built for agencies, and the idea is to help you fulfill and basically navigate your entire PPC strategy. There's a lot of great resources available there. One of them is the knowledge base, which contains all of the COVID information that I just shared a while back. But we also have, for instance, a PPC Academy that you can sign up for, and you can take courses on the products as well. This is extremely useful in this particular situation where you kind of have to go the extra step and learn more about the products that you have available. We have a proposal engine that helps you build proposals for your customers. We have an audit tool that will help you identify opportunities within your account. We have a lot of tools available as well for partners, just to make sure that you're equipped with all the resources that you need to be able to navigate these waters. And Microsoft is also doing a lot of work on this end. I'm going to let Mauricio showcase and share some of the things that they've been working on, but a lot of these tools we're using ourselves as an agency, all the resources that Microsoft is sharing with us, because it contains a lot of really relevant data that's helping us improve performance across our campaign. So Mauricio, maybe you want to walk us through this one.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, you said it all, right? And again, one, I really like the Compass graphic. It looks like a command center. It's really cool. And it definitely, has been an impressive tool that I've had the, good fortune of being part of the conversation and helping sort of look at iterations along the way and inform some of that, right? And I think where a lot of agencies are adapting to this is creating a resource center for their clients, right? And I don't like to say clients as much because they become partners at that point. In order to, again, sustain and extend the lifetime value of a customer, there has to be some personalization there. And you're in there with them, right? Because I don't know of any business right now that is willing to turn away business, right? I think it's an important time for us to really evaluate how we service our partners and deliver something that's relevant to them, right? And so for us right here, the Microsoft advertising, we're here to help. We have a COVID-19 center that it provides week over week insights and trends over all the verticals that we touch on. And, we actually have a lot more granularity than this, but the idea here is just to show you guys that we are on top of it, right? We're looking at what we're trending, where we're seeing growth, where we're seeing stickiness, where we're seeing some flux, and where there's an opportunity too, right? Just because we're calling out smoke doesn't necessarily mean we don't have a sort of strategy to help sort of address all that. And so, we're finding that people are having to be more agile right now with their messaging. They're having to be more proactive with their end advertiser, with their partner, to understand like what are the challenges that they're experiencing, right? And how do they adjust their model to support that, right? Because on the other end, you may have some folks who all of a sudden start, hockey stick growing. And, that's a great opportunity for us to understand how do we support them and how do we sort of help protect what is hurting right now and, provide a new price point for them or provide a month of, free support or consulting, because at the end of the day, when we get out of this, you didn't just sort of save the sale, you earned yourself a customer for life in that respect. So I want to point folks here to this hub. We will have a link for you. Give me a second here. I want to show you guys that we're also, from a broader scale, keeping tabs on this pandemic and where it's trending. If you go to bing.com/COVID, COVID-19, you will see that we are keeping track of its global movement, right? And on top of, again, being able to make it a clickable map, it shows you the relevant news for that area. And you can dive in deep. You can go into the New York City area, you can go into the Pacific Northwest, you can go to the Midwest, you can go into the South, and we will provide some updated relevant news. Again, as a sort of pulse on what is happening. It's good for folks to know as each state, as each part of the country starts opening up, this is how you can adjust your strategy. If you work with franchises, this is how you can start staging opening up again. If you're working with particular products that are doing very well right now, this is how you can increase your presence. This is how you can increase your message if you want to stay top of mind and you have the budget to, again, continue providing more awareness or, nurturing your top funnel. Some additional resources here. We just want to make sure that folks know that as a company, we have a firm stance that we want to stand by our partners and our customers and let them know that there are tools that we're offering for free. Think Teams, discounts on Office 365 to help folks, again, mitigate some of these communication challenges, or even just having a new opportunity to adapt to a non-in-person world. In terms of our stance, sort of double down on that, we want to make sure that we're leading with empathy. And our CEO has been really vocal in the last few years. Again, once he took over, it was just a new world, right? We wanted to empower every person on the planet to achieve more. In this COVID world, this new normal, we want to lead with empathy. And we want to be very clear that our business model, we're not trying to become a telecommunications company or drug company or an automotive company. We want to partner with them, right? And so we want to make sure that we can understand what are the challenges that they're experiencing and then how do we help them adjust to this new normal. And from an advertising perspective, that is our approach with our partners, with our agencies, with our direct advertisers. So we've actually had a lot more in-depth conversations with the mom and pops folks, with the franchises, with the big brands. And we're trying to understand, like, where are you guys seeing, flux in your business? Give us more transparency so we can help you leverage our products to adapt for that new world. And so it doesn't make anyone feel good to see JCPenney shut doors, but it does help the conversation move along when we're finding that we can bring them data that shows that people are shopping online at like rates that we've never seen before. So how do we help them adjust to that new world, right? And so those are the types of conversations we're starting to have. When we bring it down to the mom and pop shop, the dry cleaner around the corner from me, the restaurant that is, trying to keep its doors open, how do we help them, again, adjust to a world that will require more delivery, that will, require more sort of online presence to stay top of mind. And again, have to, sort of look at their business model from a, front door service, right? Or from a, sort of door service where they have pickup only and they're willing to do pickup. So there's a lot more, sort of ingenuity and that's coming from the industry and just more tactical conversations on strategy that we haven't seen before. So, I want to really glance over a couple of things about how Microsoft can help your business, right? From where we are in terms of just a market share place, much of this hasn't changed, right? Like, we didn't all of a sudden topple Google, right? But what happened here is that we saw incremental growth, both in the US and in the UK. Largely Europe was impacted heaviest early on. And so where we saw a lot of just immediate growth and learnings was from this marketplace. And it helped inform how we were going to adjust for that here in the United States. So again, we want to remind folks that this is still a part of that media mix for folks who are looking, again, more consciously about their dollar. Where do they invest, right? And Google is going to be the first place a lot of people start searching. A lot of places going to be the first place a lot of people start advertising first. So that density creates a lot more friction and creates maybe a higher price point. And so to think strategically where else people are searching, because we're at home 99% of the time now, you want to make sure you're there where people are searching, and Microsoft Ads delivers on 37% of that. Again, going back to our search partners that have actually helped us really develop more learnings and amplify and increase our footprint. Yahoo, AOL, Microsoft Edge, Ecosia, CBS Interactive, with the Wall Street Journal. So all these folks, we've actually been it's been great for us to continue to strengthen those partnerships, and it's actually helped us increase our footprint and deliver localized results, to drive more value to the local folks. I know here in New York, being sort of like dependent on delivery now, that's been a massive partner of ours that we've been able to, again, increase the messaging and get in front of folks who are looking for these types of products. Click share, again, these numbers are updated every quarter by a third party and ourselves. But in terms of the top line verticals, we are still seeing some really strong numbers. In fact, in some of these, most all of these, we are over indexing on clicks than market share. So if your business falls in any of these buckets, now is a great time for you to start taking advantage of getting on our platform and looking at our platform as an alternative and complement to an existing strategy. Again, some of the big players left in a lot of these verticals, and so it's bringing down the cost per click lower than we've seen in a long time. So it's cheaper, and the click volume is still there, and in fact growing in some cases. All right. And Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
There we go. We wanted to showcase this particular case because this is one of our clients from an industry that actually picked up during the pandemic. This is a furniture client where before the pandemic, they had a very small Microsoft strategy. They were running a small shopping campaign. I don't think they were running too much search. And we worked on a tracking setup that would allow us to basically follow up on the entire sales funnel for the furniture that they were selling. So we enhanced the tracking setup, and then we went full blown. We did a shift in budget because we were seeing from, again, the information that Mauricio shared with us was showcasing that a lot of the industries were picking up. So we moved some of the budget there, and the results were, to be honest, we didn't even really expect the performance that we saw there, especially compared with other channels. The cost per conversion is 100 times lower on this particular network. The conversion rate is 40 times higher. The return on investment was significantly higher, and this was just in a period of 3, almost 4 weeks. So this is an opportunity that we weren't fully leveraging before with this particular client, but because we found the resources and the opportunities within the network to try it out and test it out, this came to be. So what we're trying to do is when we find spots like this where a client can test out a strategy because we're seeing numbers that make sense, we try it out, and in a lot of cases we're getting great results. So this is what we mean when we say take advantage of the resources you have available. If you have the data that's telling you that performance is increasing in a particular network, in a particular approach for a particular industry, go ahead and execute. Because likely you will get positive results during the pandemic. And if you make it sustainable, this is a strategy that you can keep after the pandemic as well. Just a time check, Mauricio, we have 8 minutes left. So maybe we want to leave about 5 minutes for questions at the end, since we have a couple of slides left.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really the biggest thing I want to leave folks with at the very least is that we have an Excel plugin. It's free. It's called the Microsoft Ad Intelligence Tool. For anybody who, again, is new to marketing or is seasoned or, is a direct advertiser and just wants to understand a little bit more about how to sort of just navigate some of this stuff. This tool basically allows you to look at the marketplace, look at the additional keywords that are playing in your space that deal specifically with your industry or vertical or product. And we have some really cool templates that actually give us some fantastic insight. This is the Search Query Insights dashboard. It's been massively important and really critical for agencies in keeping a pulse on like where they're seeing some big lift on some of their advertisers, products or even industry. So for this instance, I wanted to show you guys a screen grab. This was outdoor projects. Basically, when we entered that in, we looked in the United States, and the time frame was between the January 6th all the way to April 5th. And outdoor projects was something there that, this particular advertiser was just curious about, what kind of lift that they were seeing. They were seeing some, growth on Google, but they weren't sure about their investment on micro ads. This actually this tool allowed them to see like where there was a massive appetite and where they weren't taking advantage of it. So you'll see on the left, it basically shows from the start of the year all the way up until when we started to see like shelter in place orders go into place, and then where we started seeing a lift. In terms of the day of the week, it showed where we were seeing the biggest spike. And again, to help inform strategy, how you can allocate your dollars in the day strategy. In terms of states, in terms of location, on the right, you'll see where we're seeing the biggest percentage of search volume. So in Pennsylvania at that moment, that's when what was happening. Secondary was New York and then California. So again, it directionally allows you to not just follow your nose, but also gives you some insights to, allocate your dollars where you're going to get the most clickable activity and impact. And then, on the right, again, just some very high level metrics about like what the age group looks like, what the gender group looks like, and what rising queries we're seeing so that folks can allocate their dollars against increasing their search funnel with new keywords, related searches. And again, if they wanted to target a particular type of profile, they could do that. So that's really what I wanted to leave folks with. We have a ton more to go after, but this will be for a round 2, and I'm happy to do a secondary follow-up on this.
For sure, and we're going to be sharing the deck after the webinar, so you guys are going to have it available. You're going to see some things in regards to the Microsoft Audience Network. Again, the Microsoft Network is connected to several audiences. One big thing for us, for instance, just to give an example, has been leveraging LinkedIn audiences, targeting people based on their LinkedIn information. So if you have a B2B service or product and you want to target specific business owners or company owners or a specific industry, you can do so. There's so many things that you have available. We're going to share this so you get to see it, and you're able to leverage all these resources. There is a good amount of free information out there as well. A lot of these things you can test out for free. You have access to the blogs, you have access to the decks. So we're going to share this with you so you have access to this and you start leveraging it. Just to conclude, and then we can go over some of the questions. Some of the main ideas that we want to leave you with is one, that you need to be ready to change. You need to have a flexible model. You need to take the temperature of your product and your service and understand what's happening in your market. If you don't have flexibility when a situation like this comes about again, or even during this particular pandemic right now, you're going to have a hard time navigating the waters, whether you're an agency or an advertiser. You're going to have a hard time if you don't have the flexibility to adjust. Another important particular point that we want to leave you with is listen to your customers. This goes hand in hand with taking advantage of the data available and seeing what the numbers are saying. Through the numbers, you can understand what your customer is saying, how they're making decisions, what they're deciding to do, what they're choosing not to do as well. So listening to your customers is a key element of adapting your business, and how that guides you into adjusting your voice. Your voice right now will likely not be the same voice you had 3 months ago. Your customers have changed, their behavior has changed, the situation and the market has changed significantly. So you need to evaluate your voice, your product brand, how you're going about and how you're telling the story about your product. Investing on new opportunities is a huge one. The case study we showed you was a perfect example of why it might make sense right now to test out all these things that you weren't testing before, and testing all these opportunities. And most importantly, take advantage of all the available resources, not just what you're seeing here, but all the information that's out there. There's one big positive trend that we're seeing from this particular pandemic, is that there is incredible amount of content being produced by a lot of people, a lot of experts in the industry, a lot of experts in your particular verticals. So if you spend the time out there doing the research, you're going to be able to find great content out there that's going to be able to help you out.
Awesome.
And that would be what we had for today. We're going to go over some of the questions that you guys have shared. Mauricio, I'm going to start with one here. Maybe you can help me with this one from a Microsoft perspective. It seems 2 of these are fairly similar. If we can provide some insights on how to sell protective equipment and medical supplies right now, how to put it out there, since there's a lot of scams, counterfeit certifications, and also limitations as well in some of the networks as well. So how to go about selling, protective material that's related to COVID, how to sell medical supplies, how to put the voice out there. I don't know if you have any takes on that.
Yeah, that's something we've been following very closely, just because a lot of folks are getting in the game in that sense, right? One thing we want to be sensitive, we are not allowing folks to use COVID-19 as a keyword or as part of their copy, just because it just doesn't make sense. And you know, again, we want to make sure we continue to reinforce good behaviors on, like, you know, ad copy and targeting and such, and authenticity, right? And so that's something there that we've sort of full stop, draw the line in the sand. In terms of the type of products, you know, again, this is a conversation we can have. You know, if it's something like protective masks, like that is something that we can do because there's a demand for it. A lot of big businesses have shifted even like the production to provide these things. So, you know, depending on what the type of product is and what the type of PPE is, I would say let's have a conversation. You know, if it sort of falls on the fringes of like what is the traditional kind of PPE, then that might require a little bit more of just inquiry from our side to see what's available. But let's have the conversation, because we are following a lot of the trend here, and we want to make sure we reinforce good practices.
Yeah, I can tell you that on our particular case, because we have some clients that sell medical supplies, obviously social validation, and this is something we've been preaching for years now, plays a big role now. So those customer reviews that we've been telling you to get for the past 4 or 5 years, this is the time when they come to validate your product. And this is when you come off as an authority. But you can take advantage of things like we have Bing Places available. If you have Bing Places set up and then Microsoft verifies your location, that you actually have a particular location that's legit, then you have the customer reviews. All these things give you validation out there and actually put you one step ahead. Microsoft and other networks are doing a lot of work to make sure that all these counterfeits and all these scams are not put out there. So there is certain protection already out there for customers to make sure that these type of companies are not allowed to advertise. But if you are a company that sells medical products, you have the right certifications, you are an established business, there is a good opportunity out there. We have medical supply companies that are doing, obviously this has spiked. You just have to make sure that you're careful with the message that you're putting out there, how you're portraying the product, a lot to do with what we said about the voice and understanding how you're putting your product out there. But we've seen some good trends there. They were asking for some insights on this particular industry. The tools that Mauricio shared, so the plugin for Excel and all those things are exactly the tools that you could use to learn more about this particular industry. But regardless of this, do keep in mind that after the webinar, when you get this, you're going to have my contact information and Mauricio's contact information. So we are available to walk you through and discuss your particular industry and opportunity as well. That actually came through. Actually, that question just came through. If you're able to reach either of us offline, yes, you can. We're going to share our contact information. I think we have yours as well. So we're going to be reaching out to you directly, but we are available. Another question that came through as well, Mauricio, is B2B paid advertising for selling apps that are meant to help employers have their employees comply with new procedures. This is a perfect opportunity, and this is what we talk about when we talk about innovation. Just so I can give you some background on my experience with apps, LinkedIn audiences and being able to target particular companies and employees of particular companies, so decision makers of the bigger industries and decision makers of the companies that you know are shifting towards particular changes within, you know, working from home or shifts in their processes. This is a perfect resource you have to target these particular companies. B2B is an opportunity here on sending the right message. And if you want to move an app that apparently, just based on what I'm reading right now, makes perfect sense for these particular pandemic, you can use something like LinkedIn audiences and the Microsoft network to target some business owners. I don't know, Mauricio, if you have some insights on that.
Yeah, no, we've seen a massive spike in that in terms of, again, not just your run of the mill CRM folks, but we are talking about, you know, folks who VPN services, even just some, again, performance tracking, or, you know, again, just anything that has to do with productivity. A bunch of innovations come out of that. There's a lot of advertising that is happening right now in our space, and leveraging our LinkedIn targeting and audience side is going to be really critical to get in front of these audiences, right? Because we're seeing, again, more folks on the desktop, more folks searching, again, across multiple devices. And again, we allow for that kind of granularity to get in front of that right segment of audience that does make those decisions for a massive company or a small or medium-sized company. So definitely take us up on that. Reach out to us, and we're happy to walk through how this demographic targeting works.
Yes, there is, actually we're 5 minutes past, so I'll take one more. Where can we download all the decks apart from this particular deck that we're showing in the presentation? With the follow-up email, we're going to send you access to the blog, to the Microsoft resources. We can actually put some hyperlinks in there, so you can have access to these documents as well. And if you subscribe again to either the Microsoft Network, there is a sort of a newsletter, an ongoing marketing cadence there where you get notifications on news products. If you subscribe to our blog, you're going to be getting all this material on an ongoing basis. Whenever we have new material or new resources available, you're going to get them as well. So you'll be able to do that in the follow-up email.
Awesome.
I think that's all the time we have for now. I think we do have 1 or 2 questions that we weren't able to answer, but we promise to follow up after the webinar, so we don't take more of your time. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you for engaging, asking all these questions. We hope that all this information is useful. We're going to share all the information that you saw today, so you expect that on your inbox. And please feel free to reach out to Mauricio or myself if you have any questions, anything you want to discuss about the webinar, or any questions in particular about the paid world. We are available, and we would love to discuss it with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And thanks again. Looking forward to partnering with you again in a future webinar.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mauricio, for your time as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.